Let's talk about the Catherine Mayer soundbite that we've been referencing. So there's a couple of soundbites that have been surfaced of her. The first one is from this TED Talk when she was running Wikipedia. And this is how she described truth and her relationship to it. Watch.
The hard things, the places where we are prone to disagreement, say politics and religion. Well, as it turns out, not only does Wikipedia's model work there, it actually works really well. Because in our normal lives, these contentious conversations tend to erupt over disagreement about what the truth actually is. But the people who write these articles, they're not focused on the truth. They're focused on something else, which is the best of what we can know right now. I've come to believe that they are onto something, that perhaps for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth might not be the right place to start. In fact, our reverence for the truth might be a distraction that's getting in the way of finding common ground and getting things done. Is because the truth of the matter is very often, for many people, what happens when we merge facts about the world with our beliefs about the world. So we all have different truths.
Okay. Let me tell you my problem with that. If she actually meant that, if what she meant was when we have a dispute over the COVID origins, we do our best to say some people believe it's natural origin and here's the evidence for that. And many people believe it's lab leak and here's the evidence for that. And, hear what the leading scientists on both sides say. That'd be one thing. That's not at all what Wikipedia or NPR have done at all. They have her version of the truth, the left's version. That's what gets shoved down our throats. And only when that version is proven wrong do they start saying, well, there's another side. And then you get like 1/4 of the page showing some people think it's lab leak. There's a little bit of evidence for lab leak. That's it. That's what she's actually talking about. And anybody who spent a lot of time on Wikipedia, never mind NPR, knows that.
That's absolutely right. I mean, that's the first thing. They censor people who talk against the party line. They push the party line as if it were somehow holy writ. It really is amazing when you go back and look at the COVID lies. I mean, not to get mired in the past, but to look at the COVID lines and how anybody who stood up against them, even if the guy was a doctor and really knew what he was talking about, was not just silenced, but demonized, threatened with being canceled, threatened with losing his job. The other thing is this. Searching for the truth is difficult. We all have to do it. We search for moral truth, not just physical truth, not just factual truth, but also spiritual truth. All of us have to do this. The truth has a certain aspects about it that are universal to it. One is it makes sense. When you walk north from here, you get to Canada. When you walk south, you get to Mexico. That will never change. It's never going to happen the other way around. You're never going to walk south and get to Canada because life actually on a human level makes perfect sense. It all fits together. So when somebody says, for instance, that bigotry is wrong and therefore we have to hate white people and deprive them of their jobs in order to have more black people in their jobs, we have a right to stop and say, well, wait a minute, if racial bigotry is wrong, how is punishing white people for things that they never did right? That's the kind of thing that doesn't make sense, and you have to be held accountable for that. And it doesn't change when you call someone's name. The fact that you're not making any sense doesn't magically change when you call somebody phobic or racist or sexist or hated. So when, for instance, Yuri Berliner comes out and says these things happened and here's the proof and here are the receipts and you can listen to the stories here, here, and here are the numbers of Democrats that work for NPR and the number of Republicans, which is 0, the answer that you're hurting my feelings and you're mean and you stink, that's actually not a search for truth. That's a silencing of someone who is offering a version of the truth that holds together and makes sense. So they're not really talking about their various different truths, which has some kind of reality to it. We have different opinions and we use those opinions, we argue those opinions. They're actually eliminating the means by which we reach the truth. Megyn Kelly says A and Andrew Klavan says B. We discuss it and you hold your reason up to my reason. You hold your information up to my information. And eventually, if we're two people of goodwill, we kind of settle on where things make the most sense and where the facts point. They don't do that at all. Wait, if
I've got to play you the next soundbite. So her next soundbite makes your point exactly. You're exactly right. You're on to her. This is from June 2021, an interview that she gave with the Atlantic Council on exactly what she thinks the problem is in reaching agreement on things like truth. SOT 36.
The number one challenge here that we see and is, of course, the First Amendment in the United States is a fairly robust protection of rights. And that is a protection of rights both for platforms, which I actually think is very important, that platforms have those rights to be able to regulate what kind of content they want on their sites. But it also means that it is a little bit tricky to really address some of the real challenges of where does bad information come from and sort of the influence peddlers who have made a real market economy around it.
It's tricky. So that was courtesy of Chris Rufo who found this. It's tricky, you see. The First Amendment is the number one challenge in her fight against disinformation because it allows people, checks notes, to say things that challenge, again, her version of the truth.
Right. And the thing is, when you take over major outlets like the New York Times, like Yale, like NPR, you do have this sort of cultural weight that is based on the fact that you used to tell the truth, that these institutions, the New York Times was always a liberal institution, but it had a good reporting staff and it wasn't all dedicated to selling left-wing lies as it is now. NPR, the same thing. They used to give you stories that were slanted to the left, but they were actually factual and actually kind of held together if you were looking for that kind of point of view. Now they're using the weight of that without the actual, basis in truth and factual journalism that they used to have. So they're like the guy in Men in Black, where the alien takes over the human being and dresses in a human suit, but he's really a bug inside. That's what NPR is like now. They're using the NPR name and the NPR reputation to sell this nonsense. They're just using the weight of their reputation without the reason they had that reputation in the first place. And that is exactly what Uri Berliner was complaining about. And so I love the First Amendment. I want to hear from everybody. And believe me, I hear from people who hate my guts all the time and say horrible, horrible, dishonest things about me.
Well, they're wrong.
But what's that?
They're wrong.
They are. I mean, look at me. I'm so charming. How could they possibly feel that way about me? But, I believe they have that right. It's just that in the end, you do have to have this discussion about what the facts are, and you have to be able to let the facts get out. And she is a person who's clearly not doing that. Simply, we know this because of the suspension of Uri Berliner on a technicality and the fact that he had to quit simply to keep his reputation intact from this really, narrow-minded, I think, loopy woman. And that's being kind. I really think much worse about her than that. I think she is not being a moral person in this exchange, and she should be removed, really.
Discover a holistic wellness solution with Bond Charge, a brand dedicated to optimizing every aspect of your life. Grounded in science and inspired by nature, their evidence-based products cover a broad spectrum of premium wellness items. From enhancing sleep and performance to boosting energy, accelerating recovery, and balancing hormones, Bond Charge offers a diverse range of benefits. Consider the infrared sauna blanket from Bond Charge. They say this thing can burn extra calories and detoxify. This innovative blanket elevates your heart rate, simulating the effects of physical exercise or activity. Bond Charge says sweating during the process helps eliminate heavy metals and toxins from your body. That's how a sauna works too. Setting it up takes less than a minute, and it rapidly heats up for a quick and convenient experience. For a limited time, save 15% by visiting charge.com/MK and use the coupon code MK. That's BONCHARGE.com/MK. Use that coupon code MK to save 15%. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.